This is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, retold at the intermediate level. Chapter 5. Lady Catherine de Bourgh. Elizabeth loved traveling, so she was very excited on the journey to see Charlotte. When they arrived in Hunsford, Charlotte was delighted to see her friend. Mr. Collins was also waiting for them. He showed them around the house. Elizabeth felt that Mr. Collins was trying to make her feel bad. After all, he had asked Elizabeth to marry him first. Mrs. Collins seemed happy with her life, especially because her husband was very busy and was often out or in his study. Of course, Mr. Collins talked a lot about Lady Catherine de Bourgh and Rosings Park, her fine estate. Elizabeth was beginning to feel very curious about the lady. Elizabeth was also very curious about Lady Catherine's daughter, Miss Anne de Bourgh. Anne, of course, was going to marry Mr. Darcy, if Caroline Bingley didn't marry him first. Fortunately, after a few days, an invitation to dinner at Rosings Park came. Mr. Collins spent a long time giving orders to Maria Lucas, Charlotte's sister, about the dinner. He told her what clothes to wear and how to do her hair. Sir William Lucas was very nervous about meeting the great Lady Catherine. Elizabeth was looking forward to the dinner. As they walked up to Rosings, a very fine house, Mr. Collins told them how many windows there were and how much they had cost. They were introduced to Lady Catherine and her daughter. Elizabeth was pleased to see that Mr. Darcy's future wife was quiet, pale, and looked quite ill. The dinner was very good, and there were lots of servants, but Lady Catherine talked all the time in a loud voice. She had an opinion about everything. Sir William was still very nervous and said very little. Maria was totally silent. Mr. Collins agreed with everything Lady Catherine said. Finally, Lady Catherine spoke to Elizabeth, who was not at all nervous. "Do you play and sing, Miss Bennet?" she asked. "A little," replied Elizabeth. "One day you must come and play here." Lady Catherine continued to ask questions. She often interrupted people's answers, and Elizabeth thought she was very rude. "Miss Bennet, are all your sisters out? Do they all go to balls and dances?" "Yes, all my sisters are out," she replied politely. "That is not a good thing. Younger sisters should stay at home. They must not go to balls and parties until the older sisters are married." "Oh, I think that would be very unfair," said Elizabeth. Everyone was shocked, especially Mr. Collins. Elizabeth had disagreed with Lady Catherine Bourgh. Said Lady Catherine. She thought Elizabeth was very impertinent. After a week, Sir William went home, leaving Elizabeth and Maria to stay with Charlotte. Mr. Collins walked to Rosings almost every day. Sometimes Lady Catherine visited them. When she came, she gave a lot of orders. About twice a week they had dinner at Rosings. One evening, Lady Catherine told them that she had visitors for Easter. The visitors were Mr. Darcy and his cousin, Colonel Fitzwilliam. Lady Catherine obviously liked Mr. Darcy very much. The Colonel and Mr. Darcy soon came to visit Mrs. Collins. Colonel Fitzwilliam was very polite. Mr. Darcy was very quiet. He spent most of the visit looking out of the window. Just before they left, he asked Elizabeth a question. "How are your mother and father and all your sisters?" "Very well, thank you," Elizabeth replied. "My sister Jane has been in London for the last 3 months. Have you seen her?" "No, I haven't," said Mr. Darcy. Elizabeth thought he was embarrassed. A week later, Lady Catherine sent a dinner invitation to Mr. and Mrs. Collins, Elizabeth, and Maria. When they arrived at Rosings, Lady Catherine said very little to them. She just continued speaking to Mr. Darcy. Colonel Fitzwilliam and Elizabeth chatted about books and music. After a few minutes, Lady Catherine interrupted their conversation. "What are you talking about?" she said loudly. Lady Catherine was irritated because she wasn't part of the conversation. "What are you saying to Miss Bennet?" she said. "Music, Lady Catherine. We are talking about music," Colonel Fitzwilliam replied. "Ah, music, Darcy," said Lady Catherine loudly. "How is your sister? She is a very good musician." "She is very well, thank you, Lady Catherine," Mr. Darcy replied. Mr. Darcy was ashamed of his aunt's manners, particularly when she continued to dominate the conversation for a long time. After coffee, Colonel Fitzwilliam asked Elizabeth to play the piano and sing for them. Lady Catherine talked loudly to Mr. Darcy for most of the song, until Mr. Darcy walked away to stand near the piano. Elizabeth continued to play. At the end of the song, she spoke to Mr. Darcy. "I'm not afraid of you," she said. "I know your sister plays and sings very well, but you can't make me afraid." "I'm not trying to make you afraid," he replied. "You always pretend not to understand people." "Now, Colonel Fitzwilliam will think I pretend all the time. He'll never believe a word I say," said Elizabeth, smiling. "I will punish you by telling the Colonel about your terrible behavior in Meryton." "I'm not afraid of you either," said Mr. Darcy. He was smiling too. "Tell me about Darcy's behavior," said the Colonel. "He behaved very badly at a dance in Meryton. He only danced 4 times, and there were lots of ladies who couldn't dance because they didn't have a partner." Mr. Darcy tried to explain. "I didn't know the ladies. They were all strangers. I'm not very good at talking to strangers." "I'm not very good at playing the piano," replied Elizabeth, "but that's because I don't practice enough." "It's a pleasure to listen to you," said Mr. Darcy. At that moment, Lady Catherine interrupted. "Miss Bennet needs to practice more," she said loudly. "Anne has never learnt to play the piano, but she would play much better." Elizabeth was very polite, but she thought Lady Catherine was extremely rude. The next morning, Elizabeth was by herself. Charlotte and Maria were in the village, so she decided to write to Jane. There was a ring at the door, and a moment later Mr. Darcy walked into the room. He sat down. Elizabeth was surprised. Conversation was very difficult, so Elizabeth asked about Mr. Bingley. "Is Mr. Bingley planning to come back to Netherfield?" "I don't think he'll return," replied Mr. Darcy. Mr. Darcy decided to continue the conversation. "Mr. Collins has made a good choice of wife, and she's lucky to be so near her family." "Near?" said Elizabeth. "She's a long way from home." They talked a little more about Longbourn, Rosings, and the countryside. Then Mr. Darcy left, just as Charlotte and Maria were coming home. "He must be in love with you," said Charlotte. "Why else did he come here?" "He probably had nothing better to do," replied Elizabeth. "Lady Catherine's very boring." In the following days, Darcy visited several times. He said very little and often sat silently. Elizabeth sometimes met him when she was out walking, but he had very little to say. One day, Elizabeth was out walking when she met Colonel Fitzwilliam. He walked with her for a while. They chatted about London, and Elizabeth asked if he knew Mr. Bingley. "Yes, he is a great friend of Darcy's," said the Colonel. "I think Darcy looks after Charles Bingley very well. He helped Bingley very much recently. Bingley wanted to marry a woman, but Darcy didn't think it was a good marriage. The woman was very pretty, but her family didn't have very good connections. Darcy and Bingley's sisters took him to London." Elizabeth was very shocked. Her mind was racing. She realized that the Colonel was talking about Jane. Charles Bingley really was in love with Jane. He wanted to marry Jane, and Mr. Darcy had stopped him. That horrible, proud Mr. Darcy had separated Mr. Bingley and Jane. The next few minutes were very difficult, as Elizabeth tried to control her feelings. She and the Colonel walked as far as the parsonage. They said goodbye, and Elizabeth ran inside. Charlotte saw Elizabeth's face. She knew something was wrong. "I have a headache," said Elizabeth, taking off her hat. "I can't go to Rosings for tea. You go. I'll stay here." Mr. Collins, Charlotte, and Maria left Elizabeth and walked to Rosings Park. Elizabeth was in the sitting room thinking when Mr. Darcy walked in. She was shocked, and she really didn't want to talk to him. It was clear that Mr. Darcy had something important to say. "Miss Bennet," he began, "I must tell you. I've tried, but I can't control my feelings. I love you very much." Elizabeth was silent. She didn't know what to say. Mr. Darcy carried on talking. He talked about his love for her, but he also talked about his family. He compared his family to her family. He talked about pride and his position in society. He said that her family was inferior to his. At first, Elizabeth was sorry. She didn't like Mr. Darcy, but she didn't want to hurt him. But when he insulted her family, she began to get angry. She thought about Jane and Mr. Bingley. "Mr. Darcy," she said, "it's normal to thank a man for his proposal of marriage. I can't thank you. I don't like you. I can't marry you." Mr. Darcy was very surprised. He was also very angry. "Your answer wasn't very polite," he said. He was trying to be calm. "Your proposal wasn't very polite," said Elizabeth. She was trying to control her feelings, too. "I will never marry you. You've insulted my family, and you've made my sister very unhappy." "I'm sorry if your sister is unhappy," said Darcy coldly, "but I separated my friend from your sister for very good reasons." "I have another reason." Elizabeth was now very angry. "Mr. Wickham told me all about you. You made him poor. You treated him very badly." "Is this your opinion of me? You are angry because I am honest. I have told you what I think about your family. Your pride is hurt." "You're wrong, Mr. Darcy," Elizabeth replied. "I've never liked you. You're proud. You're arrogant. I saw this the moment I met you. You don't care about other people. You have not behaved like a gentleman this evening. I could never marry you." "You've said enough," replied Mr. Darcy icily. "I understand perfectly. I'm sorry. I hope you'll be very happy in the future." He walked quickly out of the room. Elizabeth was very confused. She thought about Jane. She thought about Mr. Wickham. Why did Mr. Darcy love her, she thought. He was so very proud.